Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Sports Stuff video. Today, we are talking about the Baltimore Ravens getting Jaire Alexander. So, if you guys are enjoying, please like, comment, subscribe. Let's get into this video. So, obviously, as you can tell, my sound is very different, and that is okay. The reason it is like this is that I'm currently doing some stuff at my house, so my computer I usually record on with my microphone setup is kind of out of the way and not really easily accessible. So I just want to do a quick video. Yeah, so I mean Jaire Alexander, he gets cut from the Green Bay Packers. They tried trading him before, during, and after the draft. A trade could never materialize, so they thought, you know what, it's worth us eating all his dead cap, and also probably you know not getting a great pick back. And maybe it was one of those, you know what, Jaire, we appreciate what you've done for the Green Bay Packers. Multiple time Pro Bowler and All Pro. Maybe just one of those, out of respect, we're going to cut you, eat the same amount of money we would eat if we traded you, but now you can sign anywhere you want. And he does sign with the Baltimore Ravens. So Jaire Alexander, again, when healthy, is one of the best cornerbacks in the league, but injuries have been his issue the last couple of years. I believe last year he played 4 games, and in those 4 games he was very good. But I mean, when you can't be available, that is the number one thing, if availability over skill. Um, Obviously, you would love to have availability and skill, but if you have the skill but not availability, it's very hard for you to get rostered on a team long term. And if you don't have the skill but you have the availability, you at least be on the team, right? But yeah, Jaire gets cut for the Packers. The Packers, they have a lot of young guys that showed a lot of promise last year. I'm not gonna say that they have like Pro Bowl, All Pro upside like Jaire did, but they have a bunch of guys that they think can start, and in tandem of the 4 or 5 guys that they like, can all kind of make up what Jaire was for their team. So we have to see how it goes, for a full season. Again, they held it down pretty well last year. So we'll see what year 2 of that looks like. Denzel Carrington, Denzel Valentine. Oh my goodness, Valentine, whatever the guy's name is. But yeah, they got a bunch of guys I do like. I think Keyshawn Nixon is also still on that team. But yeah, a lot of corners that are young, second, third year guys that are fifth, sixth, seventh round picks undrafted. But they've all shown a lot of promise. Surprisingly, they've done a really good job of getting these guys late in the draft, drafted. But we'll see what the Packers can do. Maybe they still trade for Jalen Ramsey, right? Jalen Ramsey's a guy who's pretty available and he's still pretty good. Maybe that's a team where it goes after Jalen Ramsey or Xavier Howard or Stephon Gilmore, who I believe is still a free agent. There's a lot of free agents that are still available, waiting for training camp to roll around. So I do think that the Packers will be active in the veteran cornerback market. But for Jaire, very quickly after being cut, he goes to the Baltimore Ravens. Makes a lot of sense. Lamar Jackson, Jaire Alexander, former college teammates from Louisville, got drafted the same year, so they got recruited the same year. Very good friends. The minute he got cut, Lamar was getting an interview, and he said, "Eric, go get him." Eric DeCosta, their GM, telling Eric, you gotta go get him. That's my guy. I love him. I've already reached out to him. Hopefully, Eric's reached out to him as well. So, it's gonna be very interesting to see what the Baltimore Ravens have on defense. Obviously, they've regenerated this cornerback room and safety room in the last 2 or 3 years. They now have Malachi Starks, they just drafted in the first round this year. Kyle Hamilton, that's an elite young safety duo. Then you have Marlon Humphrey, who's turned into a really good slot corner. He's not the guy he used to be in 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. He's not the same guy as he was when he was younger. But I think in his age, he's kind of moved that slot cornerback role, and he's been pretty good. He's been pretty good in that slot role. You have Nate Wiggins, who was one of the best corners coming out of his class. Only fell because of injury from Clemson. But Nate Wiggins, absolute baller at corner. He can handle that. He can handle the outside. And now Jaire Alexander coming in as well, can handle the outside. And in case of injury, they do have Chidobe Awuzie, and they have what's the young guy? What's the young kid's name? Jalen Armstrong. Is that his name? Let me see real quick. Ravens depth chart. I think it's. Oh, this is really annoying. I can't remember the kid's name. It's something Armstrong. Um, corner. There it is. Nate Wiggins, Joby Wuze. Oh, Jalen Armour Davis. There it is. Jalen Armour Davis. Yeah, Jalen Armour Davis, again, in rotation, I like Jalen Armour Davis as an outside corner. You also have Chidobe Wuze, who signed in free agency, Nate Wiggins, Jaire Alexander, Marlon Humphrey. You got a bunch of guys as well that are rookies that you drafted later in the draft. They kind of fill in more of that depth role. This defense is looking scary, man. You got Broderick Washington, Travis Jones, Nandi Madubuike, Kyle Van Noy, Trenton Simpson, Roquan Smith, Odafe Owe, Nate Wiggins, Kyle Hamilton, Malachi Starks, Jaire Alexander, Marlon Humphrey. That's really good. That's really good starting. And I mean, in rotation, You got guys like John Jenkins, who's a very good rookie. Not a rookie, he's a really good vet. David Ajabo as well, who, when healthy, I like David Ajabo. It's just, health has been a really big issue. Aeneas Peebles that you drafted, Teddy Buchanan, who you drafted, who I really like, Jay Higgins, who was an undrafted free agent, who I really liked, Mike Green, who you drafted, uh, Adisa Isaac as well out of last year. On this defense, there's a lot of young guys that I really like. I like what they're doing. They're taking that role with the Philadelphia Eagles in the last couple of years, where they have their cemented starters, right? You have on defense, you have Nnamdi Madubuike, you have Roquan Smith, you have Odafe Owe, who's coming up on a contract here soon. Like Travis Jones is definitely their starter for the next couple of years. Broderick Washington's been on this team for a long time now. You got guys that are on their second, third, fourth contract on this team. And then you have a bunch of the young guys at rookie contracts, right? Marlon Humphrey as well, obviously. But then you have guys like Malachi Starks, Kyle Hamilton, Nate Wiggins, Odafe Owe, Trenton Simpson, Teddy Buchanan, Nace Peebles, like Jalen Armour Davis on a rookie contract, Mike Green, who you just drafted, Jay Higgins again. Like there's a lot of guys in this defense that are obviously center stones of what their defense has been the last 10 years, and the last 5 years, I'll say, because a lot of these guys have within the last 5 to 8 years have been drafted. But now they're building out through the draft lots of young guys that in 3 years can become their starters and guarantee you what they're going to do. Then on offense, I mean, obviously you got to do what you got to do with the Ravens. I like what they did in the draft. A lot of guys that I would have drafted around where they got drafted. I thought they did a really good job. But Jaire Alexander, man, him next to Marlon Humphrey, next to Nate Wiggins, that's a good cornerback trio. We've been saying the last couple of years that the Ravens need to invest more in their secondary. They've heavily invested this offseason in their secondary, grabbing Malachi Starks in the first round, signing Chidobe Awuzie, a former Super Bowl starter. I believe that the Bengals year, his All-Pro year with the Bengals was the year they went to the Super Bowl. So Chidobe Awuzie has a lot of experience in the NFL. Tennessee the last 2 years, I believe, after leaving the Bengals. He's a good, solid veteran to come in case one of these guys get hurt, because Marlon Humphrey and Jaire both have injury issues, but when healthy are both very good. Again, Jalen Armour Davis is another guy I really like. So it'll be very interesting. The secondary, they've really rebuilt the secondary very quickly. Ardarius Washington, I really thought would get the starting job this year, but I mean, with Malachi Starks, Ardarius Washington, who had a really good year last year, is now kind of that third safety role again that he was going into last year. He's in that role yet again. But I do think because of how much he showed last year, they're going to still play him a lot. And him with Jaire, man, this is going to be one good secondary. The linebacker core we know the linebacker core. It's a very good linebacker core. The defensive coordinator they've had the last few years. Obviously, they lost Mike Macdonald to Seattle, but since they lost Mike Macdonald to Seattle, I still think the Ravens defense has been very scary. Not to the same level that Macdonald had him at, but I think this is still a top 5, top 7 unit. And with all this added secondary boost, I think it's really good. I think it's going to be a really good defense. But yeah, Jaire Alexander, good luck. Obviously, when you play the Browns, I hope you don't have good luck. But when you do play any other team, I wish you good luck. But yeah, if you guys enjoy, please like, comment, subscribe. Just a quick video breaking down Jaire, cut and signing by the Ravens. I am trying to get back into videos. I'm not gonna do high. I kind of like this, right? I like the funky diabetic vibe with the NBA, where it's just, you just vibe out. You just record the video, add in a graphic, and you just talk from your heart. You don't gotta worry about production value. It's just like, hey, does this guy know ball? And I like that. So if you guys want more of this kind of video, let me know in the comments down below. Again, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Peace and bye.